Welcome to a very special episode of Bucket List Coach Web Show Live. Well, hello, your host, Cindy Lee, Huntington Beach, California, and a little bit about the show. So, Bucket List Coach Web Show Live was started in 2017. I was a chef for 25 years, and now I'm a foodie podcaster, and I get everybody on here who is making the most of the dash. So, we have the day that we're born, the day that we pass away. What are you doing in between that time? If you like aviation, I have aviation twice a year in August and in November. Pacific Air Show's coming up here in October. So stay tuned for some amazing podcasts. And of course, if you're a nonprofit, you have a good cause, anything that you want to share on this podcast, I'm here to help. So we have Shawn and Jenny Kortes. How are you? Welcome to the studio.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great. So we actually originally met, I don't know, maybe 6 years ago, 5 years ago. And then you started the HB quarantine. So let's talk about that first, and then we'll go into today's show.
Well, it all kind of started by accident. I was at what turned out to be my last night at work before getting laid off when the pandemic hit, and they started shutting down all the businesses. I happened to have some downtime at work, and for whatever reason, I jumped on Facebook, and I came across a thread, and the discussion was about everything being shut down and who is going to be open for takeout dining. And it kind of turned into people from the community chiming in on who had what, who was offering takeout food. And at the time, there was a lot of shortages of everything. People were looking for toilet paper, they're looking for flour, all of those things that were missing from the grocery stores. And in the midst of the discussion, somebody had posted a comment just saying somebody should start a group for this. And I kind of had a little light bulb went off, and I thought it was a great idea, and actually Googled, how do I start a Facebook group? And
wow.
I mistakenly, I mistakenly started a business page. And so, I didn't really know what I was doing, obviously. And so I started a business page, and then I invited about 600 of my friends from Facebook to join the page. And it kept saying that there was an error trying to post to it. And so I kept doing it again. And so I come home from work, because it was night shift. I come home and I sleep, and I wake up around noon, and my wife Jenny says, what are you doing? What's HB quarantine cuisine? And I was like, oh, I'm trying to start a Facebook group. And she's like, well, you started a page. It's a business page. It's completely different. This is not a group. I'll fix it for you. So she fixed it and turned it into a group. And then, it kind of snowballed from there. Within, I think, like the first 2 weeks, we had, a few thousand members that had joined, and then it really just took off. And it kind of became more than just food. It was more of a local directory for Huntington Beach. And people were sharing information about everything, where you can find toilet paper, which grocery store had the toilet paper at the moment, and where you could get chicken, where you could buy, toilet paper from one of the restaurants. And so, at that time, the restaurants were all shut, and there was no indoor dining. So they were selling a lot of their dry goods, because they still had their suppliers that were ready to deliver, their toilet paper for their restaurant establishment. And so they were actually kind of turning their businesses into general stores at the moment. And, that was when you could call in, you could order a bunch of list of items, and they would basically package it up and bring it out to your car. And so, it started out with that. And then it was just mainly her and I, we were both at home, nobody was working, and just answering a lot of questions from the community, and just trying to help everybody kind of navigate the whole situation that we were all in together.
Well, I'm going to pop
So,
off real quick. I'm going to share this on the couple Huntington Beach group. So I'll be back in 2 minutes. So go ahead and
sure.
continue. Maybe if you could do some shout outs on some of your favorite restaurants also.
Well, I mean, we live downtown, so the one thing that we learned with HB quarantine cuisine is that most people, they eat close to their home. They pretty much only kind of go in like a 1 mile radius of their home. So, the beauty of it is that, we got to discover a lot of new places across Huntington Beach. The community members were jumping in and saying, "Hey, I live over here in the harbor and you should go check out this location." They do great margaritas, whatever it was. And it became a real kind of a food exploration for Huntington Beach that people didn't realize what was out there, beyond their immediate neighborhoods. And we live downtown, so we primarily we kind of same with everybody else, we stay in our local area. And our favorite place was 25 degrees, right downtown on Walnut, and in between Main and Fifth. And we actually we've known each other since high school, but we both proceeded on with our lives and got married and divorced. And then we found each other one day. I walked into a bar and there she was, and it was 25 degrees. So that's a favorite of ours. And then there's lots of places throughout Huntington Beach that we've explored and have come to love, depending on which type of cuisine that you're looking for. And we've made a lot of friends with a lot of the business owners in the process. Our my favorite pizza is 00. And we also really like Johnny's Pizza. We like Rip. There's a lot of great pizza places out there. Capone's is another great Italian spot.
The black.
Black Trumpet. Those are the same owners, the Ferraros. Um, but yeah, there's tons of stuff out there. And the beauty of Huntington Beach is that there's little pockets of food everywhere. And once you kind of branch out of your neighborhood, you come across a lot of really unique concepts, and a lot of really good mom and pop restaurants that are out there struggling to make it. And with the support of social media, these businesses were able to kind of gain traction and stay busy enough to make it through the pandemic. So it's been a really surprising blessing that this all really worked out. We never really knew what it was going to be or what it was intended to be until it kind of just did what it did. And the community really is to thank for that. They provided all the content, they provided all the information that made the group what it is. So it's been a real fun ride. And we've been gaining weight and losing weight in the process, trying to manage the ups and downs of eating so much food everywhere. But we've had a ton of fun doing it and met a lot of really really great people. So
Yeah, and then
yeah.
thank you so much for what you do for the community. I mean, I just really appreciate you. And this is what we're
Yeah.
talking about today. I've actually been going through testing over the last month and a half. Of I actually grew up being a servant leader and giving back to the community, and that's what I'm here for, is to give to you. And I don't know if I'll be the ultimate donor, but I sure am trying. And they said it's around 3 to 4 months for
Yeah.
the test and get through and get approved. But let's talk about your story. It's 15 years ago it started.
Yeah, so I have a kidney disease called polycystic kidney disease, and it's hereditary. It runs in my mom's side of the family. My mother unfortunately had it as well before, and she passed away early on during the pandemic. And then I have an aunt that also has polycystic kidney disease, and she's also actually looking for a kidney at the moment. So if anybody else qualifies and are still willing to donate, I have another family member that could use a kidney as well besides me. But yeah, I was in 2010, I was kind of making a career change, and I decided to go to nursing school. And in the process of doing that, you do a lot of blood pressures and things like that on each other to practice. And I kept having high blood pressure. And so I went to the doctors, and they did some more testing, and then, narrowed it down. And they told me the, unfortunate news that I had polycystic kidney disease, and that, it's not curable, and that someday, I'll require a transplant. So since then, I've just, if there's not really much to do for it, there's a single medication that, became approved maybe 5 years ago, that is potentially able to slow the progression down. But that's about it. And so I've just been doing, monitoring and doing blood work and just kind of waiting, because it's essentially just a waiting game while your kidney kind of deteriorates and gets worse over time. So as of recently, it's been almost 15 years since I was diagnosed, which is good.
Wow.
But yeah, I've just, my kidneys have gotten bad enough to where I've had to start the dialysis process. So I started that in January. And then when you get to that point, unfortunately, I don't know, it's kind of weird that they make you wait so long. But then, once you're on dialysis, then you can start, the journey for looking for a donor, looking for transplant. And so that's, what we're doing now. But I want to let everybody know, that I am healthy otherwise. I'm one of the lucky people that I don't have a lot of symptoms. I get tired sometimes, but I still work. I still do, pretty much everything normally. There's a
Mhm.
few things that I can't do because of the dialysis. I can't go in the ocean anymore. I can't go in jacuzzis, things like that.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
but but those are small trade-offs. But the goal is obviously the longer I'm on dialysis, the more problematic things can get. And for me and my blood type being here in California, it's about a 10-year waiting list. And so 10 years, that's a long time, and there's a lot of bad things that could happen in between now and then. So the goal is to hopefully find a donor and get the transplant and move on with my life, and get back to being normal again, being able to spend time with my family. Our son's 17, and he's about to finish up high school next year, move on to college. And my daughter Charlie, she is 6
Aw.
going on 7, or 17 I should say. And you know
Yeah.
I want to be able to be there and do all the fun things that dads get to do with their kids, and that's my biggest motivation for everything is get a transplant, get back to normal, and be able to be part of my family's life in a longer capacity, for
And that's my reason also, because unfortunately I wasn't able to
you
be a mother, but I do a lot of stuff for a children's charity, and I'm doing
yeah.
this for your kids. I mean, I'm praying to God that
Yeah, and I
you
can't tell you
be a
enough
donor.
how
Yeah, that
amazing
means a
that
lot
is
to
and how
me.
much I appreciate you for doing that. It's
Yeah.
Awesome.
it's not an easy thing. It's not natural for somebody to kind of take something like this on, and it takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of love and compassion to be a donor. And the one kind of cool thing, I guess, is that most of us, we all have two good kidneys, and we can donate one and go back to living a completely normal life and give life to somebody else. So it's one of those
Yes.
organs that you can really do a lot of good with if you're willing. And so I can't thank you enough, my family can't thank you enough for
Thank you.
Yeah.
going through this process. And I know it's a lengthy process, and I appreciate you
Mhm.
sticking in there. It's a lot of testing, and
Yes.
they're very thorough about all of the testing to make sure that you're healthy, and that you're gonna be healthy through the process. So
So let me kind of talk about what I've gone through. And so anybody who wants to donate, this is the process. So you're going to go to the website that's listed here on this podcast. Just go to the show notes, or you could just look at the bottom of the screen. And so that you'll have a first set of blood work. Then they'll call you more for blood work and x-rays. And that's where I'm at now. As a matter of fact, on Wednesday, there is a nurse coming to the home for more blood work. And then it's CAT scan, MRI, different testing, continued testing, more blood work, also colonoscopy. If you're a woman, you're going to do the mammogram as well, and also, various testing. So they said anywhere from 3.5 to 4 months. And especially at UCI, my meeting that I had last week, I went to 3 or 4 different departments. So you are doing, different things. But when you really care about people, that's really what, all the time that you have to spend the next 4 months, that doesn't matter. It's just, sorry, getting a little choked up here. It's because we want to pay it forward to you for all you do in the community. So that's really the key here. And not everyone will qualify. So if you have high blood pressure or, other ailments, you may not qualify for this, but definitely take the time to go to the website and make a difference. So let's talk about what we got going on the 31st.
Oh yeah.
We have
So
Descanso restaurant. Yeah, coming up in
right,
Costa Mesa,
Descanso
California.
on Harbor and Adams in Costa Mesa, and we're going to do a fundraiser to celebrate your birthday, and
And
also
Jenny's birthday.
it'll be my wife's birthday, and hopefully generate some money, and we can put towards a good cause, and have some fun in the process.
So let's watch a quick video here.
Welcome to Descanso, an all-new dining experience. Traditional Mexican street food in a whole new setting. Authentic Mexican dishes prepared at your table a la plancha. An atmosphere reimagined to delight the senses. Bringing you the freshest quality ingredients with a vibe all its own. Descanso Restaurant in Costa Mesa. Make a reservation today.
Well, there you go. That's a culinary bucket list too, to be able to experience that together. So the 31st of July, if you can't join us at 6, because some of us work during the day. So it's from 11:30 to 9 p.m. And you just show the flyer. You could reach out to Kortes, Shawn and Jenny, or myself for the flyer. And all you got to do is submit that flyer. And I believe 20%, 25% will go back to Shawn. Yeah. So. All right, we're about to the end of the show. Is there anything else you'd like to shout out today?
Just wanted to, thank you, obviously, and then, everybody else that's gotten tested. And, if you're interested in testing, it's very simple. My insurance pays for everything. There's no cost to you. And, if for whatever reason that you're not a match, there are opportunities, but, if you're willing to donate, if you're not a direct match to me, there's what they call an exchange program through UCI. So you can still donate to somebody else somebody else who needs a kidney, and I'll receive a voucher that will basically bump me up in the line. Instead of the 10-year waiting list, they say I can get a new kidney in like 3 to 4 months through the voucher program. So if you're not a direct match, it's okay, but you can still donate. But even if you're not donating for me, look into this, and there's a lot of people out there that could really benefit from somebody donating. And it's a very safe procedure. There's less than a 1% chance of any complications. And, after surgery, people get back to normal very quickly. And, you don't notice anything, missing one kidney. You basically live a normal life. And, you can give the gift of life to somebody else. And, if you're generous like Cindy here, there's a lot of people out there that could really benefit from it. So.
Yes, and you could actually go to Google and type in Bucket List Coach blog, and you just click that, and then you'll see the very first article. So, and this is where you can just screenshot the flyer as well. So anything else you'd like to shout out on the show today? We got about 4 minutes left.
Just thank you to everybody in the community who's become friends over the years, or just followed us. There's a lot of you guys online that every once in a while we meet face to face, out in public, either at a restaurant or just somewhere. And that's one of the biggest kicks that we got out of doing all this is when we start running into people that we know just as a name in a Facebook picture.
Seeing them in person.
Yeah.
Different.
But yeah, the more we interact with each other as a community, the more we really understand that we're all just people, and politics and everything else aside, we're all pretty much on the same page, especially when it comes to food. Food's one of those things we can all kind of unite around, and one of the most communal things that we can do is to sit down and share a meal together and talk about food. So you can understand how much I love it for that reason. You know, the community in Huntington Beach is very passionate about a lot of things, and I'm happy that, you know, we're able to make food one of those things that Huntington Beach has been able to get behind. And, you know, guys, there's one thing I wanted to tell you, you know, right now, especially with, you know, everything that's going on in the world, you know, these restaurants, a lot of them are really still struggling, even more so than during the pandemic. You know, prices have really affected the restaurant industry. So, you know, when you're out there, you know, please be kind to your local mom and pops, and just any of the restaurants and the people that work there. You know, they're still under a lot of pressure. They're still, you know, every single day trying to keep the lights on and the doors open. And it's the little things, you know, from you guys, the public and the consumers, that make a big difference for them. So, you know, make sure you let them know that you appreciate them when they do a good job. And, you know, when things happen and, you know, their mistakes are made, you know, be kind, you know, give them a chance to, you know, correct those mistakes. And, you know, I'm very certain that they'll do their best to right whatever wrongs were made. And, you know, that's the communal spirit that we need. And that's, you know, one of the things that the restaurant community really could use right now, is a lot of time and consideration and, you know, support from the public. So
Yeah, and then myself, being the previous chef, I always like to celebrate July. It's National Culinary Month, so I'm going to be working on possibly doing some collabs with some local influencers. So definitely stay tuned for that, so
sure.
we can, you know, stimulate more of these businesses here at Huntington Beach area.
Yeah, the more the merrier.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
fun.
All right. Let's do a shout out again to your quarantine page, and we'll pop out.
All right. Well, yeah, if you guys are looking to follow some good culinary journeys from, you know, everybody across Huntington Beach, go to Facebook and look up HB Quarantine Cuisine and become a member. And there's also HB Local if you're looking to kind of explore some of the other businesses.
Local business.
Yeah, it works kind of like a directory, like you would with, you know, Yelp or anything else, but it's community based. So your community members will give you their recommendations for all of their favorite local businesses and services.
And stay tuned. We're going to be doing a podcast probably once or twice a month to get people to get their donor program going and at least get tested for it. And of course, during Culinary Month, if you guys want to come back on for that as well, and make
Oh,
sure
we'd
that
love
you
to. Yeah.
mark the 31st of July for the fundraiser.
Yeah, we'll have to get a big group together. We'll get some restaurant owners and we'll all sit around and eat some food and talk about it.
Sounds good. All right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for everyone tuning in today, and we'll see you just on the other side. So hang tight for just 1 second, guys.
Sure.
Thank you, Cindy.